Hello, my name is Joshua Odomark. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Pandio. Today I'm going to talk about our new product that we just launched called PandioML, and specifically one piece of PandioML called datasets. So just to recap, so PandioML is just a Python library and CLI tool that sort of abstracts a lot of the complexities of building pipelines and deploying them to production. So it sort of is a tool set to make all of that a lot easier. And the one component we're going to talk about today is data sets. And so the concept of data sets is it's the thing in front of the pipeline that feeds data into the pipeline. In our mind, data sets and pipelines, you can connect them together so they're one sort of thing. It's almost like the first step in the pipeline is retrieving the data. That's very common. But in a sort of distributed messaging world or distributed world, you want to sort of separate those because they need to run at sort of different frequencies. So you might need to query a terabyte of data and sort of feed that through a pipeline. And so you don't necessarily want to do something like that in series or synchronous. You want to be able to do it where you can scale one piece of that. The data set's really huge, so you could have something like 500 workers retrieving a terabyte of data or a petabyte of data, hundreds of petabytes. And then your pipeline, you may not need as many resources to sort of process that, or you accept that you can process it slower, or maybe you need to process it faster. But the point is the requirements are different. So that's why with PandioML, they're two separate things. So let's look at a data set specifically. And again, a data set's just meant to access the data. So it can be reading a local CSV file, it can be reading a remote CSV file connecting to a database like Snowflake, DynamoDB, MySQL, or any number of proprietary use cases where you need to access data. So let's sort of dig into it here. So in an effort to save time, I've already pre-created this beforehand, but we'll sort of walk through it and I'll skip sort of me typing to save some time here. So or the bulk of the typing. So first thing we'll do is the PandioML ships with a tool called Pandio CLI, and this allows you to generate templates of what you want to create just to save time so you don't have to keep writing all the boilerplate code. And it also sort of provides an interface to interact with the Pandio platform. So let's just generate a project template real quick here. And then I have different types. So since the one we're going to be looking at today is processing a CSV file, we're going to use the CSV to sort of generate something for us automatically. All right, so now we've got a project template here. So this is the sort of class that we're going to want to change. This is the boilerplate code that's just created for us. Also allows us to specify any unique requirements we may need for our data set to run and some configuration. So the reason these two other files exist is because when you create a data set in PandioML, you're doing it in such a way where if you follow the sort of guides here, the interfaces that we've created that tell you the methods to define, this allows us to then package this up and deploy it on the Pandio platform and be able to run at absurd scale. So if I was creating a data set where I wanted to read in petabytes of information from 5 different data sources, I could write that as a PandioML data set, deploy that to the Pandio.com platform, and then Pandio is going to handle actually running it for me. So I don't have to deal with any of the operations side of this. That's one of the huge benefits of PandioML. And that's what I meant by earlier of it abstracting some of those complexities. So it sort of handles it for you if you write the data set using the PandioML framework. So that's what we're sort of looking at today here. Now we're just going to take a flat file and read it in just as a loose example. But the source of your data could literally be anything. I mean, you control all the code in this file, and there's only a couple methods that have to be defined. It basically just has to be an iterator at the end of the day. So all sort of MySQL or SQL clients provide an iterator capability. So it makes that very easy for you. So here's the just sort of template. Again, to not sort of write all of this here live, I've created this beforehand. So let's go ahead and talk through what this sort of looks like. So I basically took that file that we were just looking at and turned it into this. So the things that I added were just a downloader. So this is where the actual data exists on the internet. So we can go download this. It's a zip file, so it has to be unpacked. And then this is the actual file that we're after at the end of the day. So these are just things learned by, understanding what that data set is. And then we created an iterator that goes through it and yields the results, so that we're only reading it record by record at the end of the day. And it's tab delimited, so we just added that in there as well. But that's really all this sort of is. It downloads this file locally so that we can actually have access to it, and then just reads one record in at a time for memory efficiency. And then all important is the setting a schema to it. With PandioML, it's not absolutely required, but it's heavily recommended. Setting your data to a schema provides type safety for your pipeline, so that when you write your pipeline and it's going to receive data from this data set, it is going to be of this schema. That beyond a doubt. It will not reach your pipeline if it is not in that schema. So that's why it's very important to set the schema in here and actually turn each of these records into one of these objects. It's very valuable. And again, Pandio, when you deploy this to the platform, handles sort of passing these things around efficiently as bytes at the end of the day. And then when it gets to your pipeline, it's turned back into this object. So that's all just handled for you. You don't have to think about the middleware at all. And so that is really as simple as a data set is. It's just getting access to the data, reading it in small chunks or each row individually, and then it's provided to your pipeline at the end of the day. So you could imagine data sets can be anything, can be reading any source of data at all. We're big fans of Trino, which is a query in place type of technology where you can run SQL against various disparate data sources. So a MySQL database, CSVs or Parquet files in Amazon S3, anything like that, and you can treat it as a single source of data. So Pandio actually offers Presto as a service, which is Trino really these days. They just did a name change, but so you can write a data set that's basically just a Trino connection established, and then it just streams data in. So you write SQL once against 5 data sources, and you're done. So it's a pretty magical thing. So we'll do another video soon about how to use Trino to create a PandioML dataset, because it's an incredibly powerful aspect to PandioML, leveraging the power of Trino in this sort of way. Thank you very much for watching this video. We're going to shoot more. I invite you to check out our GitHub for PandioML. There's a couple more examples there. We're going to be adding more as often as we can, at least once a month, just to help understand all the amazing things that can be built with PandioML. So thanks again, and have a great day.